Posh meets mainstream. Jaguar Epis. Jaguar Epis. Jaguar Epis. The fact of the matter is, after you dispense with all the hype and discussion, it all comes down to three magic words: compact Jaguar SUV. In today's market, if that phrase doesn't sell cars, nothing much will. Especially as it is a compact Jaguar SUV priced initially anyway in the mid-30,000 €. Yes, that's about the same price as a well-spec'd Volkswagen Tiguan. We don't often get that sort of posh meets mainstream on price. So I might as well be blunt: people will buy it because it is a Jaguar no matter what the likes of this reviewer says. Encouraging them to do so are some good things about it. And there's some things I'd find fault with too. Jaguar Epis. The EPACE makes its Irish debut early next month. It's the new baby of the brand. They call it their Cub and have a little emblem to that effect in the lower left-hand corner of the windscreen. It's the smallest and least expensive vehicle they have made. The entry-level €36,000 is an introductory launch price for the 2.0 Di 415 PS manual model, 124 GkM, €270 road tax. There are two other diesels, 180 PS and 240 PS, and two petrols, 249 PS and 300 PS. And all-wheel drive, and a 9SPD Autobox, and lots of spec levels and options. First edition models are based on the R-Dynamic chassis spec pack and include sports seats. I drove the Cub in southern England last week, but to say it was a real examination of its claimed vim and vigor would be an overstatement. A longer test awaits. I can say the following with certainty. Despite my few reservations, it is clearly and cleverly targeted at mainstream buyers of those higher-spec compact crossovers I mentioned. Jaguar Epis. Jaguar. Expect 80% of those who buy to have never had a Jag before. That's a lot of people leaving other brands. I think those interested will like the front a lot. I did. And the side profile. But I don't think the rear is Jaguar enough now I've seen it in daylight and from the perspective of driving behind one on the road. Sure, they spoke about the step design of the lower regions, but take that out of your line of vision and are you a million miles from your ubiquitous mainstream formula? I don't think so. A colleague made a good point too. They need wider tires for the more muscular look they seek, because this is aimed at attracting more men, a sort of antidote to the female success of the Range Rover Evoque from the Jaguar Land Rover stable, of course. For all that, I prefer it to the larger FPACE SUV look. I am in my usual minority on that. This chunky, funky five-seater may be the FPACE's little brother, but it draws heavily on the sportiness of the wonderfully agile FTYP sports car, manifestations of which adorn cabin, design and chassis, the large grab handle being one, while I like the inclusion of a gear shift instead of rotary control. Sitting low in the cabin is meant to be more engaging, but the driver's position is not quite as dominant as, say, the Audi Q3 or Q2 or the underrated BMW X1. But I think it's a lot more stylish than either and has a better vantage point than the Mercedes GLA. There was good room all round and decent rear space in the cabin. Headroom behind would only be an issue for those taller than 6 feet 2 inches. And there's a fine boot, 577 litres. However, it is a car that looks bigger than it is. 4,395 mm long, 2,681 mm wheelbase, and I felt it particularly color sensitive. I liked it most in red, always do. We drove the 300 PS 2-litre petrol first, irrelevant here and a bit disappointing. I was far better disposed towards the 2-litre diesel, which they've quietened a good deal up the revs. On the few occasions we got to drive, it was as you'd expect from a Jaguar, with notions of generating mild hot hatchery. There is a nice tendency towards understeer on corners as well as technology to boost grip and traction. But the ride at low speed could be a little harsh. With several driving modes we used comfort and dynamic. Mostly you get the response and a handling to suit your preferences. The multi-link rear suspension comes via the FPACE. Not so sure it's a great idea to have its lower regions showing out back. I think it's a bit of a put-off and part of the reason I'm not a fan of the rear. The large touchscreen infotainment system Touch Pro connects you to all sorts, but Apple CarPlay remains an omission. Families they expect young people, couples to buy in big numbers will like the idea of up to 4 12-volt charging points and 5 USB connections, as well as a 4G Wi-Fi hotspot for as many as 8 devices. And if you have a trailer, there is an 1,800 kilograms braked towing capacity. We also tried out the off-road cruise control technology. This is a system that thinks for itself on inclines and where there is treacherous underfoot conditions, ice, snow and mud. So technically you should be able to get around safely should we get a big freeze. Remember the chaos last time. The only stipulation is you don't touch the pedals. Just steer. Similar to what salespeople will do with potential customers, just steer them towards the car with 3 magic words: compact Jaguar SUV. Indo motoring.